Hey there friends, it's Missy again. Thanks so much for stopping by today. I have a new layout and video to share for Shimmerz paints. And I just want to say welcome to my very messy desk. This is ridiculous. Look how messy this is. Yeah. Anyway, I pulled out this collection from Simple Stories that's all sticking together. It's called Sunshine and Happiness, and it's from 2016. I was just in the mood to scrap something that matched these pictures, and I love these pictures. I printed them pretty small, and they're just of my daughter's silly face, and I was inspired by the yellow in her shirt, and so I thought, okay, I want to make a yellow background. So I went to my Shimmerz stash and pulled out a lot of yellow, and I'm going to combine this with this cut file from Paige Evans and just start from there. And yeah, I had this collection stored somewhere on my shelves in a big plastic bag, and I think the last time I put it into the bag, I must have been in a hurry because I just crammed it all in there, and I've used it several times in the past, but papers and stickers and everything were just kind of sticking together, so it's a hot mess. But I love it. I love these colors. And I just wanted to incorporate some pinks and some oranges and even some of that light blue color with the yellow. So what I'm going to do is not back the cut file, but I'm going to trace the letters that I cut out of the cut file and then trace them onto pattern paper and cut them out. And then instead of putting them behind the cut file, I'm going to put them on top of the cut file or inside the cut file, but raised up off the page. So this is what I've got so far, and I'm going to leave the hearts open at this point, but I'm going to try to figure out where I want the little photos to go. I didn't put any yellow in the cut file because I'm going to put a ton of yellow on the background, and so I didn't want a bunch of yellow in the papers when the background is going to be full of that color. And then I'm going to have a yellow on top of the cut file with the photos because she's got a yellow shirt on. So I'm going to use thick, smooth, white cardstock as my background, and that's clear gesso that I am applying here. And while that's drying, I'm going to doctor up this L. If you look at the U, I used a different pattern paper for that, and it's got a little bit of a darker orange on it, whereas the paper that I used for the L is more of a flat orange color with a light white stripe on it. So to doctor that up and add a little bit of that deeper orange color, I'm going to use a little bit of Shimmerz Pumpkin, and it is a beautiful shimmery orange color, and I'm just dabbing a little bit on the edge and then using my finger to smudge that color in. And that also just gives it a little bit of dimension to where the paper's not so flat. So this is kind of what I'm going to work with here. And now I want to get started on the background. It's pretty dry, and I am going to start with some of the sprays here. This is Coloringz No Yoking, and I thought I would do something a little different to start with. I'm going to pull out my little stamping block here and use it kind of like you would the packaging technique. I'm just going to spray it right onto the block, flip it over, and then lightly stamp it down. And I love that effect. It's really cool. You get a really unique pattern on the background. I'm going to add in Spritz You're the Zest, and this is a little bit of a lighter yellow. It's got a nice shimmery finish, whereas the Coloringz do not have a shimmer. They are a flat color. This is a little bit of a deeper golden orangey yellow, and it's Coloringz Lil Yellow School Bus. So I'm going to mix these three colors and just start by using this acrylic stamping block to apply the color. I mean, anybody can do this. This is not hard at all. It's just spraying and then smushing down. And you can see the difference here versus when you use the plastic packaging. So then I decided that I needed more coverage. So I decided to just spray a little bit directly onto the paper and then use a brush to kind of spread it around a little bit more. And I still want to be able to see some of the shape from the acrylic block. So this is what I've got so far. You can see now that I've got a lot of yellow going on here, and I didn't even need any yellow in the pattern papers. So I'm going to keep working on the background here. I pulled out the acrylic stamping block again, and I'm going to do that technique again, but just make the area a little bit larger. So you're going to be able to see everything kind of peeking around the edges of the cut file and in between the letters. And I'm just going to keep doing that. I love that effect. I don't know if you've ever tried this before, but it's really fun and easy, and you can control how much spray you put on there. So it's yeah, it's fun to do. And it gives you a really fun, messy, artsy look. I'm going to add a little bit of splatters here, and I don't even really know why I added splatters, because you can't even really tell the difference between the splatters and what I did with the acrylic block. So yeah, this part really doesn't even make a difference, but at the time I felt like I needed to do some splatters, so I'm going to blend some of them in here with the brush. I like how that's looking, so I'm going to bring the cut file and the photos and everything back and see how this looks so far. So far, so good, I think. Now I decided I wanted to add even more texture, so I pulled out this star stencil from Paige Evans. This is one that she designed last year, I believe. And I'm going to just scrape some white modeling paste over it. And if you've never done this before, again, it's not hard. It just takes time and patience for it to dry, but honestly, modeling paste doesn't take very long, just a couple minutes. But this is a great, fun, easy way to get some texture and some interest and some detail on your background, because whatever shape the stencil is, you rub the paste over it and then you instantly have that image or images on your background. And you could also do this with a cut file if you decide to do that, but I love that effect. So far I like that. I'm not sure how it's going to look with the cut file back on top of it at this point, so I'm going to hold off on doing any more of the stars. Now it's all dry and you can see up close there how cool that looks. Now I'm going to see how much of it is going to get covered and how much of it is going to be visible. Because, you know, I knew right away some of it's going to get covered up, because I know that the cut file is going to go right there in the middle. And I'm trying to decide what to do with the hearts. I want to leave them white, but I don't want to leave them white. So I'm kind of toying around what to do with those. So in the meantime, I leave it alone and I start to add adhesive foam behind the letters, because like I said in the beginning, I want to pop those up and kind of place them right where they are now inside of the cut file. So here's what I decided to do. I decided to just go crazy with my sewing machine and stitch back and forth on these hearts. And I used pink thread, and then I used the light blue color. And I think that looks cool. They're still white, but now they've got some interest and some detail and some texture, and they match, but yet they're still different and they stand out. Then I decided I just love this striped paper. I wanted to use it some way, shape, or form on this page. So I traced the hearts and then cut them out, and then I'm going to offset them behind the stitched hearts. So you're going to be able to see a little bit of this striped rainbow kind of around the edge of each of these hearts. And it's going to just give a little hint of rainbow stripe, because sometimes you only need a tiny bit of something to make a big impact, you know, and I think that in the end, just that little bit peeking around the edges makes a big difference. Not like it's a big thing that stands out, but when you're looking at the layout and your eyes are going over all the details, it's something that you notice. All right, so now that the background's dry, I decided that I did need to add some more of the stars. So I'm going to come back in with more of the modeling paste and the stencil and just go to town with it and add more. And some of it overlapped, so I had to make sure that I fixed that. Yeah, I've been on a modeling paste and stencil kick lately. I just love putting this on the background. It's so fun. All right, so now we're back to the actual layout. Now what am I going to do? I'm going to start to glue some things down, I think. I'm going to rough up the edges, though, of these hearts very carefully because they have a lot of thread on them. I'm going to glue those down to the striped paper, and then I'm going to work on gluing. Nope, I'm going to add this adhesive foam behind the hearts. I forgot that I did that. I had to make sure that all the letters are equally the same height. And if you've ever played with a Simple Stories collection, then you know that they come with a ton of embellishments. I'm talking all kinds of stickers. There's all kinds of the Pocket Life cards. There's chipboard. There's sticky brads. There are die cuts. So I still had quite a bit of this collection left over. I used to be on the design team for 2016 for 1 year. And so I saved all of the collections that I didn't use up, which, let's face it, I don't think I used up any of them completely because I just never do that. So I save everything, or is the correct term hoard. Anyway, it's all still in my scrapbook room here. And so, yeah, I pulled it out and I was just in awe of how much stuff there are in these collections. This is from one of the Pocket Life cards here. I had to use this cute little sunshine. So I'm going to fussy cut that out and find a home for that because I love sunshines, especially on bright layouts like this one. And then I just sorted through all of the things. I mean, what I love about this collection is that there are a ton of little tiny things, which is perfect for this layout because I want to try to keep everything kind of compact around the cut file. I'm going to leave all the outer edges white. So everything that I add needs to be small because, you know, the cut file is the biggest thing, but the photos are small and tiny. And so I want small and tiny flowers. You can see that I've scattered a few of those around. I'm going to use that little smiley face. And some of these things that I've picked out, I don't use. Some of the things are lime green because there is a lime green color in this too, but I don't incorporate that color onto this layout. So yeah, I mean, there's no shortage of embellishments in this collection. I still have a ton of it left. So I'm going to add in some thread before I start to glue anything down, and I've got that deep orange color. I've also got some of the hot pink. I don't add any yellow thread because I don't feel like it needs any more yellow. There's plenty of yellow, so I'm going to go with orange thread at the bottom and then some pink thread up at the top, kind of behind the heart and the sunshine. And I just love using thread, especially with mixed media. It just kind of adds to the whole messy flair of everything. It creates some texture. It gives you little pops of color. And I like that you can just tuck it underneath things. And it just works. Oh yeah, I forgot that I used the light blue color too. So I'm going to tuck a little bit of that over here to the right. And I felt like that side of the page by the U and that lemon slice needed a pop of the blue color. So that kind of also helps determine where I put certain colors of things. Sometimes I want to do tone on tone where I put all the yellow stuff together, all the orange stuff together, and so on and so on. But in a layout like this, I'm not doing that. I'm spacing everything out. So I want all the colors equally distributed across the entire page. And I like both of those techniques. Just depends on the layout, depends on how it turns out and the direction it goes as I start to make it. Because let me be honest here, when I first was planning and thinking about this layout, I originally wanted to do a completely monochromatic yellow page. Yellow background, yellow in the photos, and then just yellow paper, yellow embellishments. And you can see that quickly changed. As soon as I pulled out this collection and saw all of these other things in all these bright colors, monochromatic went out the window. And that's one of my favorite things about scrapbooking is your ideas shift and change quickly as you go. You know, you have one idea in the beginning and then 5 minutes later you've completely changed your mind and went a different direction. And I love when that happens because sometimes, you know, the final result is better than what you had originally thought. Sometimes not, but a lot of times it is. And so yeah, I say if you get a new idea that's different than how you began, go for it and just see where it takes you. I'm still embellishing here. Look at all these sticker sheets. There was so many things. I couldn't stop. And everything was so tiny. And that was perfect because I have a hard time using giant embellishments a lot of times. And so these little tiny ones, look at these little tiny stars. It was perfect to just tuck in places. so many things. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to keep working at it. And you can still see plenty of the yellow background. And I always say that, you know, the backgrounds look intimidating and look like most of the time, oh my gosh, you've done way too much. That's way too much mixed media. But then when you put everything back on top of it, like I've done here, it looks totally different. It looks a lot more tame, you know, because you can see it around the edges. You can see it peeking through the open spots inside the cut file and around the photos. And it's just enough, you know, because sometimes your mixed media can just be subtle, you know, it doesn't have to dominate the entire layout. And so in this particular layout, I wanted to show how you could use your shimmers to create a complementary background. And I feel like that's what this is. It just, the yellow complements everything. So what I'm pointing out here is that I added a couple more stickers to the edges of those two photos there. It was like a little label sticker that had that blue color. So I tucked that in there. And I felt like the area with the Y needed a pop of the blue. So I found this sticker that says yes. And I love the font of that. It matched perfectly. So I glued that down. And then I decided that I wanted to add a little variation in color around the edges where all the yellow is. And so I'm going to blend the little yellow school bus with some of the pumpkin, just to get a little bit of a darker, not orange, but just a darker shade of yellow. And then just add a little bit of it here and there, just to kind of break up the background. And I originally was going to use my regular paintbrush, but then I decided to pull out my water brush. And so I'm just dabbing it into the color and then squeezing it slightly to add a little bit more water and just smudging it around the edges here, trying not to get any on the papers because I don't want to color up the actual outline of the white cut file. I want it to stay white so it helps the cut file stand out. And yeah, if you have a question, I know I get questions sometimes about my water brush there. I got that at Michael's a long time ago, but I know they still have them. I think it was maybe $8, but it's awesome. You unscrew where the black part is and you fill it with water and it's squishy. And so then whenever you squeeze it, water comes out of the end and it's perfect. All right, I decided to get a little brave here and go splattering. And this kind of works out, and then I kind of changed my mind. But I'm splattering Pretty in Pink Coloringz, the perfect color pink. And the background wasn't completely dry, you know, that's a rookie mistake. I should know to let the background dry. And so when the splatters started hitting some of the wet yellow, they started to run and bleed. They did not stay in splatter form, so I just decided to blend them. And in the end, I actually like it. So yeah, some of the yellow background is going to have some hints of pink in it. But yeah, note to self. Let the background dry in one color if you're going to add another color. Otherwise, it's going to bleed. And then I kind of did it again. This time I'm using a hint of mint, and it is a beautiful color. It's so pretty. It matches the light bluish color in these papers here. But I do the same thing with that, and it's a pretty light color. And since I did use gesso first, I was able to dab up some of it, but I kind of blend that into, and it works. I actually really like how the background turned out with the hints of those colors around there. I did glue in a couple more little detail stickers, and then I'm going to add the journaling right here to the left with my T-square ruler, and then I'm going to use a black fine tip Sharpie. And then I do add the date off camera at the bottom there, but that's the final page. I love how this turned out. I love all the yellow. I don't know, I was just in a yellow mood, and I love the addition of the other colors to help support the yellow. Everything sort of just jumps off the page, but yet the photos are still front and center, which was my ultimate goal. But yeah, I think the background turned out really pretty, even though it changed as I went. And I hope that you guys are inspired by this in some way. I hope you'll give mixed media a try and make your own background. And if you're afraid to just spray directly onto the paper, then do what I did here and just use a little acrylic stamping block or a little bit of plastic packaging to smush the color down. It's always a really cool effect, and it's a good way to control how much color you want to add to your background. But Here are all the close-ups. I hope you get some ideas to try. I'll link all the colors that I use down below. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.